Oh, should I record it with AI, whatever it is, Danielle?
No, just normal record, the
Perfect.
basic record, whatever option that is.
All done. All right, first thing I'd like to just acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we all gather today. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and extend our respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. We acknowledge the First Peoples as the first scientists, educators and healers. And I am presenting today from Gadigal, the Gadigal land of the Eora Nation here in Sydney. So we've got a few things to go through. First things we'll go through just some regular administrative things. Then we'll have a report back from or feedback from the testing event that happened just a couple of days ago. Steve will do that. Dushi will then take us through some AFM M1 material. We've got a couple of JIRAs still to close out, if we can do that today, and then some, what's next at the end of the meeting. So the first thing to mention is that we are soon to go to ballot. So if you want to be part of that, if you want to be able to vote, then you need to be a current HL7 member. So the ballot will open in, I think it's Monday week or the end of next week.
Okay, you panic me. No, that's too soon. It's a month. It's a month away.
No, not the ballot. When the sign up for the ballot happens.
Right. So yeah, 6th of July. Yeah, you're right.
Yes.
Sorry. I heard just ballot and I was going, oh no, we're not ready.
No, all good. So if you want to sign up for the ballot, then the opening date for that will be the 6th of July. You'll have just under a month to be able to do that. But in order to do that, you do need to be an HL7 member. Make sure you go sign up. If you want to join, you can email Robbie Carp, hl7.com.org, and you can do that there. You also need to have a Confluence account. So if you haven't got that, then make sure you sign up. All of the details of that are on our website, on the Confluence page, which you don't have to sign up to be able to view, but then in order to edit and do all sorts of other things, you'll need to be able to do that. So just remember, if you want to be part of the ballot process, then from the 6th of July, and we'll talk about this as the next meeting as well, you can make sure that you have done all the things that you need to do to be able to participate with that. So where are we today? We're on the 26th of June. We're getting close to everything being wrapped up in prep for ballot. So we've got one more week really to kind of make sure you've got any changes. So if you've got any other changes, any informative changes that we need to raise, please do that by the 10th of July, which is our next meeting. So you've got to have done that before then. So there's not a lot of time. So we've just got a couple of weeks left to go. And then we will be getting into the ballot process. So we'll be publishing the ballot on the 4th of August, the snapshot, and then we'll run through that process. So things are kind of warming up. We're getting close. There's been a lot of work that's been done already this year, which has been really good. And we're looking forward to see how we go, because it will be nice to get release 2 out and done beginning of next year. So there's still a ways to go, but some good stuff coming up. All right. The first thing to do is the approval of the minutes. So the minutes were sent out a little while ago. Does anybody still need some time to be able to approve, or is there anything that people will need to do or information that they need in order to approve the minutes for today? If you want to, you can go and have a look at that now whilst we just go through the action items. I'll just put that information in the chat if it's not there already. Oh, I think, yeah, there we go. So it's in the chat. Whilst we do that, I'd just like to go back here. So is Ruben on the call? Just going to go through the action items that we had. I'll have to just follow up with him separately on that.
Yeah, can we
so
put, I guess on that point, let's put an action on me in the minutes to send him an email on this one, because yeah, he's not on the call at the moment.
Okay. Thanks, Danielle. Brett and Danielle, you were looking into a tooling change to visibly flag deprecated profiles and extensions. Did we?
Yeah, we're still having a look into that. Just I guess for the people on the line, one of the things that's happening in base, we haven't done it in AU Core, is that some older either value sets or profiles have been deprecated, and there's newer ones now. But it's not obvious when you look at like there's a page that just lists all profiles and extensions that some of these are deprecated. And so we're still having a look into it. I hope we'll have it addressed by the time we go to ballot. But if not, we'll definitely have some way of doing this for final publication, that when you look at the list, you can actually know that some of these are deprecated. So we're checking into it. It'll happen eventually.
Thank you, Danielle. Next one, Craig and Liam were going to provide some examples of common cases that are not working within the data type via email. This was out of the back of the stuff that we were doing last meeting. Did that happen?
Can't speak for Craig's, but on reflection with Danielle afterwards, all the use cases I was thinking of actually sit in patient.contact anyway. So I think we were just looking at the wrong element there. So I'm good with what I raised.
Yeah, so let's just I'm just thinking, would it be better for you to go there, Marvin, or I could just share my screen briefly, just to talk about this, because Craig is on the line, so we could just, I guess, circle around to that.
If you got it on your screen, you can share it.
Yeah, I'll share mine. You need to stop sharing first because you're host. All right, we'll share mine. So, okay, it's this one. So I'm currently on the profile of AU-based patient, and what came out of last meeting's chat around some of the ways that you need to provide information around particular contact details, whether that's telephone or website or other things, is that you need to be able to say more things than what the data type allows for you. So specifically, if I go to the data type first, just to refresh people's memory, which isn't here because that would be too useful, wouldn't it? Let me just go to the patient profile, just buyer's patient. So what we were looking at specifically was this, a contact detail for the individual. So that is for the patient. And that really only has a few things available to it. And there was particular discussion about how this use element, which gives you some qualifying information about the purpose of why you're providing a phone number, has a really limited set of values. And there were a lot of things that people were talking about. And in particular, Craig and Liam both had a couple of cases that they were talking about that this doesn't work for. And while in order to be valid FHIR from the data type perspective, you can only send what's here because it's required. The thinking was that we would have a look at how could those particular use cases be satisfied in FHIR? And I had a chat with Liam later on because this has been discussed at the Australian FHIR Work Group, in particular as part of the support for PCA, so Provider Connect Australia, and around that work. And what had ended up being identified by the FHIR Work Group is that there's a separate data group. So it's patient.contact. If I just step back a bit. So there's this single element, which has the data type, which gives you that limited set of things. But if you have things to say for a patient that have a richer set of content, then there's the patient.contact sort of backbone and the elements underneath that you can use. And in particular, this relationship one, which can describe the nature of the relationship between the patient and the contact, can, I think, hold the things that both Craig and Liam were talking about. There's already an extended terminology in Australia. So if I just pop to that, while I get that canonical URL to resolve to NCTS, there was some thinking done around this to include, things around this is the power of attorney or the billing contact person, or this is the emergency contact, or some of these other things. And we can, if there's a code or something we want added in Australia, we can add on to this particular value set so that we have a set of understood ways to qualify what that is. But it goes in patient contact rather than sitting on the data type. So I guess I'll go back to Liam and Craig there around whether that's something we want to explore more, or if that looks like it might address what you were raising.
For me, no, not because not that I don't have a problem with that contact part. That's sort of more aligned to in HL7 V2 sense NK1 segments, right? That's pretty much what that relates to. Mine is more about the actual telecom components itself. Even in HL7 V2, we have essentially the three main components. One is a number. Two is what use is it for? Like, is it, and in these days, and even the fact that it was PID 13 versus PID 14 sort of try to determine, home and business and all this sort of stuff. But even then, even within the data type of XTN, you would have a particular thing that says, component 2 would describe the use, which might be personal or business or and so on. And then you would have a machine type or communication type, which might be cell phone or mobile, landline, pager, email, etc. Right? So the type, if you like, in the way that it's listed here, to me, home, business, mobile aren't really talking about the same sort of concept, right? Because mobile is an equipment type, not a use type. Right? So that's where I sort of said it's conflating the actual concepts about what that thing is about. Now, I don't propose that we want to solve that right here, right now, but it's something maybe the FHIR group and broader thing. And it's not that it's wrong, or maybe in the first days when these things were started to be put together, they were right, because everyone still possibly at that point had landlines and everyone, all that sort of thing. Now, people having landlines for personal or business can often be, in the minority, not in the majority. Right? So having the fact is, when you talk about use, is you can contact me on this number. It's more about when can you contact me? Is it during business hours? Is it after hours? What is it is. And if I want to know what sort of equipment type it is, because maybe the caller wants to know, am I going to have to pay for this or whatever else it might be? Those things, they're somewhat, you know, does anyone really care about some of those things anymore? But in terms of the very basic sense is, to me, the concepts as they sit there right now are actually talking about the same thing.
So
Even
are
though they're
you
the same as the
okay?
codes.
Because I think there was also, did we do this in organisation? Because the discussion around after hours came up, not in the same way it does for patient, because that's much less likely that you're trying to capture that systematically. Look at, because again, organisation has contact purpose. And so I think that ended up being there with after hours. So I think depending on the FHIR structure, whether it's patient or practitioner role or organisation or healthcare service, they're actually native elements rather than being on the data type. I think that's how that's working out. But we could maybe have a chat offline and see about I think the really common cases you have and whether that maps onto something that's already addressed and where the gaps still are.
Yeah. I think it's you know, as I say, it's got a lot more to do with, you know, changing in society and contemporary use of how some of this stuff happens, because we have exactly the same problem within our systems on the, you know, on the UI. So where they're asking, you know, they've got 3 separate fields, home, business, mobile. And again, even at the UI level, they're sort of conflating the concepts, because in theory, I could put the same phone number in all 3 boxes and still be right.
Yep. Yep. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Shall I continue sharing?
Yes, please. So I guess I think there'll be an updated action. I might send you an email, Craig, and see if we can kind of identify a set of cases and have those discussed at the Australian Firework Group around where we have recognised and agreed mappings for those in Australia and which ones we don't, and also get some feedback on that.
Sure, no problem.
Cool. All right. And then the last action item was for an e-vote on AU Core PractitionerRole, ContactPoint, and organisation ContactPoint.
Yes, I didn't do it. So they're on the agenda for today's meeting. If we don't get to them, I have an e-vote prepared that I can send out immediately after this meeting if we don't have the space to discuss them.
All right, all good. Okay, so given that, is everyone comfortable with the minutes for the last meeting, and can we put forward a motion to accept those minutes? Do I have somebody who would move that?
Yeah, it's David Weeb here. I'm happy to move that.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second?
I'm happy to second that, Marvin. Rosemary Villado.
Thanks, Rosemary. All right, I'll put launch a vote, and you can vote if you approve of the minutes. Click affirmative. If you don't, negative. If you weren't around or haven't read them, then you can click abstain. It's 77%. Can we get it to 80? A couple more people. Marvelous. Okay, I will end the poll in just a moment. I don't think it's settled down.
My vote's in the chat.
Thank you. So the motion for accepting the minutes were 13 affirmative, 26 abstain, and no negative. So that motion has passed. Thank you.
I'm just questioning the process there. When we get that many abstaining, it's like, don't we need a?
Yeah.
That's a good
Abstains
question. I mean,
count as a no
those who
vote.
abstained, I mean, were you just not at the last meeting, or you don't
Abstains.
understand the process? It's a good point, David.
Abstains just don't count. So
True.
as long as the affirmatives are more than the negatives,
And it's got nothing to do with the quorum. Like
it does have to do with quorum. We have to have quorum as well.
So
Now, I guess my interpretation of what David was saying is, for those who have abstained, did you abstain because you've not read the minutes, which is quite reasonable, because a lot of people are time poor, or you don't understand what the process is, that we maybe need to explain something a little bit more.
I guess as long as we can still pass the minutes, then because when we go on to, let's say, vote about something else, don't we still have to have a certain number of votes before we can pass something based on the total number of people here?
Yeah, that's where we have. That's where we're going to make a change to something that was previously approved of.
That's right.
We have to go through that process, so we don't have to do that today.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
there are a few different types of votes. There is a decision-making practices and a governance and operations manual that calls out different kinds of decisions, and whether or not abstentions count towards the decision. In general, they don't. In general, they're counted as no vote, and your majority vote is looking at the majority of those who are voting between affirmative and negative. There is a minimum quorum. It is always, I guess, 4 people generally for a decision, a chair, so someone who's administrating the process, but they don't get to vote. And then there are 3 individual voters representing 3 organizations. We also have to take into account preponderance of influence, where the people voting who make that up can't, form a majority block because they're from the same organization, for example. But in general, except for these kind of meeting ones or just change requests, it is just the majority vote wins, as long as we have a minimum of 3 voters from separate organizations out of the majority and negative votes.
Great. Thanks for clearing that up, Daniel. Cheers.
Thank you. All right. So in other news, AUCDI Release 2 has been published. If you want to see that, where did I thought I had that a moment ago.
I can put the link in the chat if you want.
Oh, perfect. You can find all the details about AUCDI Release 2, which is all good. And the other thing I'd like to mention is that our ballot dates are confirmed. Starts on August the 11th and runs for 4 weeks. And final thing is, please review the vision statement and charter. If you don't know where that is, I'm assuming you can still see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Yes, you can. So if you head over to Confluence and in the AU Core Technical Design Group home, there's a terms of reference, and then our mission and charter are located there. You have until Monday to respond with any changes that you think need to be made to that. And then if you have any changes, then we'll just look at that in the next TDG meeting in beginning of July.
And just to confirm for everyone, this is an annual review. So we reevaluate, we collect feedback or potential changes or anything that might be directed to us from HL7AU, and do an annual review cycle. And this is our next 12-month one.
Thank you, Danielle. Okay, so let's move on. And the next thing we're going to look at is the testing report feedback from Sparked. Now, Steve, do you want me to share the screen, or do you want to share screen?
It'd be great if you could share. I've only got a couple of slides.
Okay, cool.
Thanks. Okay, thanks, Marvin. Yeah, so a couple of days ago, we held the Spark Test Event. We had 37 participants from 13 different organizations. And for AU Core, we had 9 different systems testing on the day. And that was across a really diverse set of use cases. So that included GP systems, prescription wallets, fire facades and APIs, and digital forms. Connectivity testing was one of the aims of the event for us the other day, and we had a great demo from Scripty, which was connecting to 3 other vendor systems on the day, so Best Practice, Halo, and ADHA. In terms of test tools and approaches, we had a really wide variety. So we had on the day where Spark brought a bunch of tools, but also vendors brought their own systems and data. So we had the Inferno test suite that people used for a lot of conformance checks against their fire servers. We had the HL7 Australia test data sets for people to load into their systems to get that coverage of resources and profiles. We had vendors bringing their own test data, so that was tailored to their specific use cases. A new feature on the day were the feature files. There was a vendor that was interested in and using those, and so therefore documenting and verifying expected behavior of the system against the IG. We had the Spark server as a shared data source, and we had HL7AU terminology server for code validation and lookup. So that set of tools actually gives us a really rich and flexible testing environment, enabling participants to test both their own specification conformance, but also giving them the opportunity for some real-world interoperability scenarios, which was great to see. If you go next slide, please. Thanks. So a big thank you to the vendors who have submitted their test results so far. We've got results in from Best Practice, Alcidion, Sonic Healthcare, HealthLink, OXA, Halo Connect, Cyro, and of course the Australian Digital Health Agency. And a reminder that if you have test results, please send through your logo to Spark so we can promote your organization. And we're also happy to work with you outside of these test events to get some more test coverage as well if you have a round of testing that you can do. Next one, please, Marvin.
Go for it.
Yep, thanks. Okay, so we also had some interesting other resources that were not yet profiled in AU Core, but that people were testing with on the day. So notably, some of these resources not profiled in AU Core. So appointment, document reference, communication, binary, schedule, slot, service request, diagnostic report, task, consent, questionnaire response, bundle, and parameters. So I guess it's important to note that while AU Core provides that foundational set of national profiles, many of these extra resources are covered in use case specific IGs. So patient summary will be covering document reference and bundle. Perhaps in future, we'll be covering communication and binary, perhaps. E-requesting covers service request, task, and diagnostic report, and others in that context of ordering workflow. Danielle, you've got your hand up.
I do, yeah. I was checking in on, I mean, you're already answering part of my question around which use cases were using these resources? I mean, obviously service request and task and consent and so forth, I expected e-requesting.
Yeah.
In terms of document reference, was that only patient summary or was that also e-requesting? And was there was there anyone who was testing pure, I guess, core that was using document reference?
I'll just bring up on my side, I'll just have a quick look. So we had document reference coming through from Halo Connect. So they were, their system had those pieces of data coming out. So appointment, document reference, communication, binary, schedule, and slot were coming from Halo Connect system. So that was the fire facade for best practice. Alcidian had the service request, diagnostic request, and task. That was on the Maya Precision app. And then CSIRO were the other ones around the questionnaires and bundles.
Yeah, which would have been all the smart forms kind of content. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, okay, that's really interesting because I think with Alcidian, I think they were using diagnostic report for their patient summary. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
I guess the interesting ones on that list for me are the appointment and schedule and slots. It would be interesting to know what people were doing with that.
Yeah. Yeah, we could probably dive into that a bit more if we're keen to understand that. Yeah, could reach out to people who are using those.
Yeah, we were talking about that. Appointments in general is something that was probably interesting to work on.
We got the origin on the line in the chat.
There you go.
Millie, tell us all about it.
Sure. So we're currently working through adding all the resources and also operations and extensions and everything to surface BP Premier's appointment booking workflow. So far we've done all the read parts of that workflow. So currently you can read appointments and you can also fetch slots and schedules, however, only by a custom operation, not directly because there's a lot of business logic underneath that. And we have just started adding write operations as well. So for the testing day, because we were using a CI build, we also had a waitlist operation, which is to add waitlist appointments. And we have the rest of that coming through. So.
Thank you. Interesting.
And I think that the fact that we've got lots of these appointment apps out there that are pulling back into practice software, various practice software, it's just a great exemplar of an interoperability issue that we have within Australia. It's all proprietary at the moment. The other thing to note is that there is an Argonaut profile around this stuff where they have defined various operations and the like, and Millie's got some experience about attempting to support those as well, which they're not really satisfying her requirements. So yeah, there are some bits and pieces that we could leverage and experience, obviously.
Yeah.
Is that something for R3?
Certainly, as we work through, so Marika is currently mapping out the rest of the write operations. We're intending to publish something around it, some blog posts or something about our experience and what we've found. And if there's anything we can bring back to the working groups about, implementing that in practice, certainly will.
Right.
Oh, I think this topic almost needs a project itself to really have people involved work on it.
So you think an AU appointments or whatever you want to call it, as opposed to AU Core?
Well, yeah, it could be an AU Core project, but I think like it will be a biggish topic, I think, and pretty specific. So probably deserves its own space, I think. But anyway,
I mean,
work it out.
It's Marika, to be fair, she's been working on this part-time amongst other things, but I think she started work on mapping appointments in December and is just now hitting the last few slices and edge cases. So yes, even just mapping, BP Premier to fire and back has been a big task. So.
And I'm aware of other projects that are doing this for hospital appointments, as in surgery bookings and things like that as well. So hospital bookings, etc.
Yeah.
So there's lots of utility, I think, going on out there. It'd be great to.
Yeah, it's big business. It's big business in diagnostic bookings as well, because especially imaging.
It's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for that. Steve, back to you.
Yep. So that's a good segue to my last point on this slide, which was don't forget.
Sorry.
You're right. Don't forget we have a feedback process through HL7, Confluence, and Jira, and also within these workgroup meetings where new requirements or gaps can be raised. Okay, you can go to the next one now. Awesome. So we're still working through analyzing all the test data. So that report back will come at the next TDG, and that will help support our AFFM2 review. But in terms of a sneak peek at how we're tracking, so based on the goals set for the event, the new profiles that we had for R2, so HealthcareService, we had one system testing that. MedicationStatement, which is new for R2, we've now got 10 systems that have tested MedicationStatement, and RelatedPerson has now been tested by 6 different systems, showing some growing interest in the area for those ones. And in addition, so allergy intolerance note, which was only added maybe a fortnight ago or 3 weeks ago, that's now had 3 systems test that. Immunization lot number also recently added as a must support element. So that's now got 4 systems covering that. And medication request dosage instruction text has now had 7 systems covering it. So some good coverage on some of those new elements that are coming in R2. But I'll leave it there, and we'll have some more numbers across the rest of the profiles, and yeah, some good stats on where we're tracking. Next one. Thank you.
Very good. Excellent. That's good. Some good progress being made.
Yes. Yeah, it was really good.
Cool. All right. The next thing we'll chat about is the AFFM1 review. Dusha, are you on the line? And do you want me to share, or do you want to share?
Yes, I am online and I'll share.
Okay. Over to you.
Okay, please let me know if you can see my screen.
We can.
All
Yes.
right. Okay. So hello everyone. I'll be walking through the proposal to move some of the AU Core artifacts from draft 0 to AFFM1. So this specifically applies to AU Core RelatedPerson, AU Core HealthcareService, and AU Core MedicationStatement that we discussed and voted on for these profiles to be added to AU Core earlier in the year. Since then, we've tested these profiles across 2 major events. So I think RelatedPerson and MedicationStatement profiles were tested in the March Connectathon and again in the Sparked testing event in June. And HealthcareService was tested in the testing event in June. There is no outstanding work items against these profiles. And AU Core RelatedPerson and AU Core HealthcareService show 0 QA reports and warnings. So I think it's good for us to, just as a group, reaffirm that these can now move out of draft 0 stage and into AFFM1, where we can further test and move these through ballot. AU Core MedicationStatement is a slight exception because there is one warning on it, but I'll come back to that in a moment. I just wanted to quickly recap for anyone that's new on the call what AFFM levels are and where you can see them. So all HL7 AU structures get assigned AFFM levels. So if I go to, I'll go to a correlated person, and here it is. It says maturity level 0. So this is assigned to all structures, profiles, terminology. The levels go from 0 to 5, and then we have normative that comes on top. So level 0 means this is really an early thing. It's something that's in progress. We're still exploring it. When we move to AFMM1, we are sort of saying this profile is now technically sound and it's ready for broader testing and implementation. So it really means the structure is complete, stable enough to use. There is no errors and unapproved warnings in the QA report, and the work group agrees this is now good enough for us to start refining. So as we go through the maturity levels, they give the community and implementers really an idea where in the standards development process the artifact is, how subject to change it is. So going from draft is really a first step. And going into AFM1, we now have some position. We have a line in the sand. Sorry, I'll go back to the slide. We now have a position to say, as a group, we think this is good enough. And we can now start testing it, and we'll keep maturing this. So going back to AU Core medication statement warning, we are getting a warning that multiple versions are found for the V3 GTIN value set. So this is not an error with the profile. It's just the tooling flagging that there's more than one version of the value set that's found. And the reference in our IG doesn't specify which one to use. So why this is happening? It's common and expected in FHIR. So FHIR IGs often use unversioned canonical references to value sets and referencing code systems and extensions. So over time, the FHIR content has been split across multiple packages. So for example, for an R4 implementation guide, we can expect some of the terminology like V3 value sets and extensions, for example, to be included directly in the FHIR core specification package. But as the FHIR evolved, many of these resources have been moved out into their own dedicated packages. So now we have the HL7 terminology, or THO, for value sets and code systems. And we have FHIR extension spec for common extensions. So this means that when we reference something like a V3 value set, or in this case, GTIN value set, there may be multiple versions available, multiple versions of this value set available across multiple packages, like FHIR core package and the terminology package, and the publisher doesn't always know which one of these we mean unless we say explicitly which package to use to resolve this version of the value set. So this is what's referred to as canonical pinning. It's really just about being explicit, and instead of just referencing a canonical URL, we state the version in the reference, and this tells the tooling and the implementers and anyone who uses the IG to use this specific version. And the FHIR community is moving towards making this a standard practice to avoid any ambiguity and variations between builds. But at this stage, it's just flagging the multiple versions that are available for us to resolve that as authors. So in HL7 AU implementation guides. We intentionally use unversion references because we want to follow the principle to resolve to the most recent available version in the context of the IG build. So if we reference a value set without the version, we expect the publisher to pick the most recent version it can find among the packages we depend on. And that version may be newer than the one that was current when the IG was first published, and that's fine. That's intentional, and that's absolutely behavior we want to encourage. And that also applies to a range of references in our IGs, not just the terminology, but also extensions and profiles. So this warning that we are getting now is new, but the situation really isn't. So we are getting the warning because of some recent changes to the FAR IG tooling that added this warning to help the IG authors to detect these ambiguous references and as an encouragement really to pin the version to improve clarity. So the tooling is basically saying, hey, you've got more than one possible versions of this thing. Did you want to pick one explicitly? So in our case, for the medication statement, I'll actually go to the QA report to show the error, to show the warning. So here it is. It's just saying that there are two different versions of this value set, and it's using the latest version, version 3, but it's found the version 2 also. And this is coming from the dependencies. So if you look at the dependencies, we can see that AU Core has a dependency on the terminology pack with version 640. And it has dependencies on the same version of the terminology pack through other dependencies, for example, AU base. But we are also getting a dependency on the terminology pack 500 via Sparked app launch dependency. So that's where the tooling is finding these two different definitions through different versions of the definition, and it's just flagging that and asking us to if we want to explicitly state which version to use. So again, it's not, this is just a behavior thing, right? It's part of the wider issue or the way in resolving package versions and dependencies. And the tooling is now producing this warning just to encourage us as the authors to be more explicit. All of this is explained in this page in the guidance for IG building. Actually, I'll put that link in the chat. There you go, for anyone who's interested. So what we want to do, but it isn't available yet by the tooling, there is a proposed future feature to support the wildcard version. So instead of specifying a specific version, we would just add the wildcard to the canonical URL. And this would explicitly say, always use the most recent version that's available now or in the future. But this is not supported by the tooling yet. The IG tooling has made available a new parameter in canonicals that let us control some of this behavior. But that only works to a degree. It only works in the context of pinning canonical references to the version that's available during the current build. But it doesn't give us that always pick the latest behavior that we want to specify in our specs. So it's only locks to what's available right now. So that's helpful in some cases, but again, it doesn't match our design approach, which is to always go to the latest. So what we are proposing at the moment is that we really accept this warning as it's really expected, and it's safe to accept, I guess. We are watching for the wildcard support in tooling, and once that is available, we'll look into making that using it basically in our IGs to make the latest available intent explicit. And in the meantime, we are confirming with and seeking feedback with the FAR IG authoring community if there is another way to signal that intent, which doesn't seem to be at this stage. So I think I'll stop briefly here for any questions or comments.
Danielle has her hand up.
Yes, Danielle.
Yeah, I just wanted to, so on the, whatever we're calling it, the pipe delimiter wildcard. So, yes, absolutely. That's the intentional approach in base and core that we say most recent version applies. And that absolutely, yeah, right now there's no formal way to reference that. I think because this is a base and a core thing, and I think that's actually kind of like at a policy level, I reckon we would raise this with the Australian Fire Work Group and then have that policy kind of come out that this is how, when it is available, that this is how it would change, and make that go across both base and core. And that's also mostly because, in core, we're not setting a lot of these bindings, right? Core is a set of constraints on top of base. So I think that's where that conversation is best placed. But yeah, no, it looks like that, assuming they don't change while they're implementing, that the pipe delimiter wildcard is how that's going to work.
Thanks, Danielle. Does anyone else have any questions about this?
Hi, Marvin.
David.
Yeah, I guess I'm reminiscing a bit software development days, and because this, pretty fundamental stuff here in terms of how we're using these things, and when it's valid to go back in versions and using different versions, because there are usually different behaviors in different versions, and I guess I'm always a bit nervous when things aren't using the latest version. So, is there additional risks because the newest version is maybe going to do more rule checking, or has, make sure that that data has to be in this version where before it didn't have
so
to
let's, I think probably be, so just because I think you're raising and we agree, and that's, I think, why the policy is to have bindings that say most recent version applies for almost all of these things, which are value sets that are like the clinical reference set for clinical findings or allergies or intolerances. That gets added to and maintained by Australia over time. And what we want that to resolve to is the latest nationally agreed clinical reference set for that. So I think that's exactly why the bindings are themselves right now are applying the most recent version applies rule.
Okay, gotcha. Thanks.
And in the warning that we saw that it was using version 3 rather than the version 2 that was there. Any other questions? So do we want to make a motion around this?
Yes, unless there are any other questions, I would like to make a motion. I'll just say two things before I make a motion. That the terminology that we are getting warning on is definitely set in AU base, not in AU core. So we are getting this error or warning, sorry, on the snapshot. And the other one is that references are resolving correctly, going from the IG. So when we resolve the reference from the IG, it definitely goes to the latest version of the value set. Yeah. All right. So unless there's some...
Do you want to go back to your previous slide, just so it's on the screen for people?
Mm-hmm.
So slide 14, yeah.
This one?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I would like to move to accept the warning on AU Core medication statement as expected and safe to ignore for now, and that we move AU Core medication statement, AU Core RelatedPerson, and AU Core HealthcareService from draft 0 to AFMM1. Would anyone like to second?
You gotta have guts. Gotta have guts. I'll second that one.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. All right. Well, I'll launch a poll. Oops. Let's go back. There you go. So if you'd like to accept AU Core RelatedPerson, AU Core HealthcareService, AU Core MedicationStatement, moving to AFMM1, then click affirmative. If not, negative. If not, abstain. And if you can't do the vote, then just put it in the chat. Just a couple of moments more. We've got over 80% vote, which is good. I'll end the poll now. So with the additional in the chat, we have 27 affirmative, no negative, and 11 abstain. So that motion is carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. I will stop sharing my screen now.
Thank you. Okay, let me share again. Okay. We're going to go into some AU Core JIRAs right now. So the first one, Liam, are you on the call?
Yep, I'm here.
And do you want to share, or do you want me to share?
I can share. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, does that look all right? I'm just showing a Jira.
Yeah, good, thanks.
Okay, cool. So I've raised this Jira to basically just add some additional guidance to AU Core blood pressure implementation specific guidance section, just around how to use the AU Core profile to represent more specific or represent specific blood pressure observations. So a bit of background, this requirement, or why I raised this ticket, was through work that was done with the CVD risk calculator application. It requires to retrieve blood pressure observations that are specifically for those measurements that were done in the sitting position. But then obviously there's other postural blood positions that can also be taken when recording blood pressure. So I think I have just added some, or proposed that we can add some additional text to describe how to use, because there's already, sorry, I'll backtrack, there's already guidance on how to include additional codes and how to represent more specific things in observation profiles in the fire standard already, or in those vital signs profile guidance. And that's included in AU Core too, but I just want to be a bit more explicit on this particular use case and how we would do that. So this Jira has this text written in the resolution description, but I've just run a local build for AU Core. This is the blood pressure observation for AU Core, and I've just highlighted the additional text being proposed in blue here. So really that is talking about adding some guidance to say that you can also include SNOMED CT codes to indicate the patient's position for blood pressure observations, and gives some examples for those SNOMED codes for sitting blood pressure, standing blood pressure, and lying blood pressure. And it also lists a code to say that you can also add component level codes. So going one step more specific, sitting systolic blood pressure. So that's the proposal. I'll take questions if there are any, or
are there any questions
Sure.
for Liam on this?
I guess it is the reason why you want to go down to that lower level of you've got their standing blood pressure or lying blood pressure, but then you want to go, what's the lying stolistic measure, right?
so. Well, I guess the AU Core profile, it just says blood pressure. This is
Right.
how you record a blood pressure. But for our case, we want to say, well, this is specifically a sitting blood pressure. And then you've got those two components, which are systolic and diastolic.
I understand totally, but I guess from a
Okay.
data management perspective, I guess what I'm looking at is you're duplicating the data at the lower levels. If you just said I'm taking a blood pressure here and they're lying down, well, obviously the values are lying down. So do you have to really qualify it again?
I guess there's a consideration that you don't have to, but for the reason I think we propose this is really just so for ease of querying the results. So you can basically just go, oh, I just want the systolic blood pressure measurement, and I just want to query the component code and say, give me that.
Right.
Rather
But
than
you
a
don't know,
double.
but am I querying the lying one or the general one or the sitting one?
If you were to just have the sitting detail in the code and not the component code, you could query, give me the observation that has a sitting blood pressure, and then go one step further and then give me the systolic one further from down the tree. Or you could just go directly to the component that actually already has that information included.
I think Brett wants to tell me something.
Brett?
Yeah, I mean, so Liam, is this just at the top or in the components too?
Both, yeah. Well, it
In both, yeah. Cool.
It just says that you can do that, yeah. But okay.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I mean, it's super useful for decision support, lookups, and also charting and stuff like that, because you want to be able to report on the same thing, you know, when you chart it. So I think it's useful.
I guess just the way I've learned data
notation.
management practices is you're unnecessarily duplicating things.
Yeah. I think it does create questions on how you deal with it, where some systems decide to do it and some don't.
Because are they fixed? Like they're fixed types. So if all of a sudden I started taking blood pressure upside down, then we would have to add another value set?
Well, this isn't adding values to actually the profile at all. This is just some guidance to say this is how you may do it.
This is terminology we're talking, aren't we? To describe the data.
Yes, it just states that there's some codes that you could add to
to
those, in addition to the already fixed ones in the profile. So if we do look, we've got, say, code, we've already got a fixed codes for SNOMED. So you've already got a LOINC code, and then you've already got a SNOMED code, which represents blood pressure. This would additionally have another coding where you would say sitting blood pressure.
Yep.
Danielle, you're on.
Yeah, sorry, I had to find the mute button. I'm actually quite supportive of this, but I do think going to what David and Brett were pointing out, that there's maybe 3 different ways you can end up trying to implement saying that we have systolic blood pressure and it was taken while someone was sitting. You can do it just at observation.code by having sitting blood pressure there and then just leave your systolic as unqualified in the code itself. You could have the systolic component, and actually, if you just scroll down, just so that the people on the line are aware that there's 3 codes here. There's one at the observation level, which even says I'm doing blood pressure here. Then there's a component for systolic and one for diastolic. So we could just have a code at the top, which is kind of what David was maybe going to, around going, well, once that says you're sitting down, then automatically the things underneath it are known that way. That's one way it could be implemented. The other is you could put it on systolic, and you may or may not choose to have it at the parent level sitting. You might just go, this is blood pressure, and you have to go down into the component to say that it's sitting. Another way to do it, just to throw a spanner in the works, is because you can use components of observations to provide qualifying information, is you could have a component that indicates position, and it could say sitting. So there are a whole number of different ways that might have been implemented by a system. I think what this is going to is not just the codes that are possible, but by putting it in profile implementation guidance, we're trying to maybe gently suggest to people that of the combinations that are out there, these are ways you could do it, and kind of draw people's attention to it. That's kind of how I view would be the result of putting in that level of guidance in core.
I just think it's a bit risky. That's all. It's just to be a lot easier if we just said, like you said, that last one is one I like the best, right? I'm doing an observation here, and by the way, they're lying down, so everything's got to do with lying down, and that's just, I guess that's my approach on it.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, there's even more ways to do it with observation as well, with the methodology elements. So it's, yeah, I think, like, I think this is like a simple way to do it, but it is kind of heading down the path of saying this is how we do this kind of thing, at least for blood pressure, which I don't mind, because I think we need to know this stuff to use it.
Sure. No, don't get me wrong, but
cover, yeah,
it just raises so many flags in bad data management practices. It's an implementation choice ultimately that we're making here. And are we choosing this implementation because we think it's the most easiest, or the most clear, or the most flexible? As long as we sort of understand
it's
that.
also in line with the guidance that already exists internationally for vital signs, and how to more specifically how to add additional qualifying detail in. I know there's no specific thing to say you must do it in code and component. You could do it in either of those, but I think it's not in line with that third one where you can add a component. At least that's what I'm interpreting anyway.
Heath.
I think we should be. I think the idea of putting it at the observation level is really good, and minimum. Like when I say minimum, it's still a may, but would be the minimum recommendation if you were going to differentiate between the types. The component level one, for me, that kind of got lost in this particular sentence, and feel that it needs to be a separate point. That's just a sort of I guess a publishing suggestion more than anything, to actually spell it out that component level codes are also possible if we go down that route. Having a bit of a table to head these out would be nice as well, just to make it clearer. But
yeah, like if this is guidance on like how you might go about it, I think that's good. And like, yeah, I think a lot of people will probably do that top level coding to be specific, because I know like pretty much all the GP systems make the distinction between the sitting, lying, standing.
Oh, great. Okay, so and I must admit,
yeah.
Neil, thanks for sharing that in the chat there. So you're actually are specifying at the data level the position.
Neil, could you give us just a quick overview of what's implemented?
He's run away.
Yeah.
There he is.
So for us, we actually have. Sarah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Sorry, and it's Niall, not Neil, isn't it?
No, it is Neil. Misspelled in my birth certificate.
Okay.
Had
Data quality issues.
Yeah, so for us at the observation level, we have those 3 codes, and then we also have at the component level the systolic and diastolic, and again at those levels we have this specified 3 codes. For example, for the component systolic, we have the Loin C systolic blood pressure, the SNOMED systolic blood pressure, and the SNOMED lying systolic blood pressure. And then we have another component for diastolic with 3 codes as well.
Yeah, you
So
can do
that,
it.
I was just showing the MediRecords profiles there. Hopefully that was all right, Neil. But I've also show the example that we've done in the CVD risk calculator profile, which is really similar. We have just added a sitting because for our requirement it was just sitting. So we've just got this additional sitting coding on the observation code, and then additionally the systolic component with that additional coding, and likewise for the diastolic.
So I guess the last thing I might just say about this then, because it is what it is, that as long as we do recognize that when we go and add another way of collecting this, there's going to be more changes to the schema, because we're going to have to add another instance for how we choose to collect blood pressure in space, you know, or whatever, right? So wherever the scope tends to move to, all we're doing is saying, well, it's going to be more data, and we'll have to change the schema instead of letting it change with reference data.
So I think with this one, I think this is just guidance as opposed to making any changes to the actual schema itself.
Yeah, I
Right.
think
It
it's
is,
more
but
about
it's
saying these are the
important that-
codes that we should be using if you're going to do this. We're not saying you should do it, but if you do it, these are the ones you should be using.
Okay.
Well, I guess I do have a question about that then. Are we going to leave it at May? Or some of the comments I was hearing from people are that this is the preferred approach. And that, I think that falls into a should.
Yeah,
Are
because
we there yet?
you could think about additional bindings, right? Or something to represent the value set that you
No,
think
that
is
goes
appropriate.
beyond, because you have to be complete about a set of terminology. I think that would be the next step, not this step. So I guess the question is this
Yeah, the
step a
guidance
may,
is
or is this
just
step a
guidance,
should?
right? Yeah, but if you're going to do should, you should make it explicit in the profile, really, then.
But that's why we put it out for ballot. If that gets
Yeah.
accepted, we then do a piece of work with the clinical group along with this group to define a full set of bindings. At the moment, I'll just hang on. Let me just confirm that intention with Liam, because I know that I've heard discussions about other codes. That's not meant to be an exhaustive list of codes, right? It's just here's a set of codes you might choose to use, and there are others that you can do. So, but a binding would actually be, here's the set of codes, and you would hope they are the full set of codes we've agreed to at the time. So I do think they are different levels of assertion around a set of guidance.
Kathleen's got a good point. What's the risk if we don't say what position we got it in?
The reason why we went down to the point of defining it is because you can't predictably retrieve or fetch that information from a system if it's not specified. Like we can make a guess and say, oh, we think systems are recording their sitting blood pressures like this, so this is how we're going to try and retrieve it. If it's not, but if it is defined, then we can be more.
Right. So you're assuming the system has collected sitting data as opposed to lying down data.
Yes, because if we just retrieve generic blood pressure,
yeah,
we don't know what position that's in.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you have an unknown position?
No, it's
I guess
just
unknown
generic.
is just the generic.
It's
that
just default
in and of itself says you don't know. Yeah.
And what MediRecords is doing is providing both. So you can query on generic, just any kind of blood pressure, or you can query on both. On a specific one, it's up to your use case as a querier on what you're trying to achieve. And Liam's going further and saying, well, actually, I'm only wanting to get ones that are reported as systolic blood pressures at the component level. You still get the entire observation back, but this observation contains a systolic sitting blood pressure.
I mean, you're required to have the link anyway, right? For the general concept.
Yeah, and you're required to have the generic SNOMED in AU Core. And we're going one step further and saying, now you may also add a third code to indicate what position this blood pressure was taken.
Yeah, because that sounds to me like a preferred secondary coding value set.
Well, I would say it's another slice of sorts, a bit like how Liam's going. Like it would be kind of a blood pressure positions slice.
And the question, and I guess it's
Okay,
a valid question.
we would not do that. That would be crazy, because for all the different options, going to David Weeby's point, you can have so many. This is just an example, which is why it's sitting in implementation guidance. We wouldn't have a slice for every single possible option.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying
you want to have a value set. Yeah, you want to have a value set of recognized concepts that you can't use other concepts to represent the same things.
Which means it gets bumped out of R2. Like, it's one thing to have a set of guidance. It's another thing to do a piece of work across the implementer community and with the clinical group, which I think would be the next steps, I guess, which is what I was calling out. And I think that would be really useful to do, on where we have like a recognized set of qualifying codes and a way for people to add to them. I think that would be great.
Yeah, because Liam, the core spec has some words around this, doesn't it already? Like the fire spec.
It does.
Yeah, but they're not very clear. I'll definitely grant you that.
Yeah, so it would be in, I can't remember exactly where it is, but it does, are these the right ones? It talks about how to, so it's got a table of other codes you could put in.
Yeah, it's
Is that a list of
Yeah.
things that you care whether I'm lying down or sitting up? So it's not just blood pressure, is it?
It says
These are
stuff like,
vital
so
signs.
for this one in the table, it says to supplement this vital sign, you could say that if there was clothes worn, you could do body position. Yeah. And then same as like body height, you can add lying if it's, I guess that's an infant.
Right, but heart rate heart rate and respiratory rate, they don't care what position I'm in.
But
well,
you
I haven't said they could.
So I think maybe we should just pause it here and just kind of go back to the intent of what we're trying to do, and that is whether or not we should accept the changes that Liam has put forward as guidance, and whether that's suitable for adding in, or whether we want to go and do some more work around this or not.
Because we could do that in two stages. We could do add some guidance now for R2 and then still go through that more complete process for R3. Or I don't know, I guess the option is not to put guidance in now and just look for the final solution in R4 and R3.
I guess I'd like to make a qualifying comment. There is obviously, I guess, if this is for blood pressure, if this body height lying is probably not relevant. So I would have a friendly amendment to say that instead of having the body height examples for the codes you could use, we clean that up while we're touching this, since this is blood pressure. But we're not debating whether or not you can provide more specific codes. I hope we're not. That's set out by the fire standard. This is calling out some codes that you may want to use, and I guess it is the first steps towards producing a set of bindings that are agreed across the clinical community as relevant things you want to record, and in the technical community on what codes you use. My big question would be, does anyone have a problem with these codes in particular? Because I think we've kind of got stuck on this. Should we even have a code? But I think that's actually quite clear. And my question is more, is it these codes? Is there a problem with these particular SNOMED codes, or should we be saying different codes?
I think there's been prior art around this already as well, so I think these are good.
Because yeah, if nobody has any objections to those codes, and also friendly amendment to clean up the fact that it references body height, but this is blood pressure, and I'm happy for us to, which I think is just a small step in providing more specific guidance.
Wasn't that in the vital signs section that was referred to?
What, that you can have a body height code for blood pressure?
Where was that body height bit?
Yeah,
So this is
that was under vital signs, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, body height lying is relevant as well. I mean, that's well.
To blood pressure. I'm saying we
No,
update
not
this
the blood
for
pressure,
the
yeah.
blood pressure profile.
Only.
And
Oh, yeah, for blood
as
pressure.
the editor,
Yeah,
I
sure.
will say I've got a standard in the background
makes sense.
variable where I cheated and just had a single like generic bit of guidance for all vitals. That's why that's there. And I think the time is to clean it up.
Yeah, that's good. That makes sense.
Okay, so given that we have got 5 minutes left before we finish out today, do we want to make a motion on this particular JIRA issue?
So to do that, do I need to do the tidying up now and then make that proposal, or can we make a motion that we just do that tidy up? That we add guidance
maybe what we'll do then is, given where we're at now, if we can revisit it at the next meeting. So let's just do the tidy up now, and then next meeting we come back and we just say, here's what we've done, here is and then we'll do the vote based on that.
Okay.
I think you can also take into account Heath's commentary around maybe putting them in bullet points or something that's easier to read as well, that sort of stuff.
So is that, just checking that, is that the proposal is basically just to include, like, this may include SNOMED codes?
Yes.
For the blood pressure part. Yeah.
That's what I understand. It's just this text
cool.
that he's adding into the guidance section.
Yeah,
green
right,
bit.
yep.
Okay, well let's do that. Thank you, Liam. All right, let's scroll down. Share. So I think, Danielle, we've run out of time, so we won't get to the contact points.
Yep, I'll send out an e-vote this afternoon, so pretty shortly after this meeting finishes.
Perfect. Thanks very much. So what's next? We've got another call in 2 weeks' time, which is the last call for any formative changes. We'll look at some FM2. Message back to the fire groups. AFMM is very hard to say. I don't know if anyone else is challenged by it, but I find it always very hard to say. So that's something that's coming next time. We'll look at the 10th of June. On the 26th of July is the last one before ballot, so be prepared for that. Last call for any changes for the 10th. And that's what we're planning to look at in the next meeting. We will review any charter changes if we receive any. So as I mentioned, we've got until Monday to provide that feedback. And if you've got any other items that you want put on the agenda, then send it through to any one of the co-chairs. You can send it through to the AU Core mailing team, and we will look at that as well. But with that, are there any other things that anybody wants to mention now before we close out? I always want to promote Zulip at the end. If you've not got an account on Zulip, you're not looking at what's going on in Zulip, then it's always worth doing, because a lot of stuff that happens, we've got a specific AU Core Australia channel that you can find out all sorts of things that are happening here in Australia and also around the world as well. So if you're not part of the Zurich community, then make sure you do that. And with that, we are more or less bang on time. Thank you very much for participating and joining, and see you again in a fortnight's time. There will be an e-vote that's going to come out shortly. If you could just give your vote on that as well, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Great job,
Thanks,
Marvin.
Marvin.
Thanks, Marvin.